horses were named Agnes and Charlie. Agnes was a gray, thick-bodied mare, maybe with some Appaloosa in her. She was going white around the withers, and she had white hairs in her tail and eyelashes. Charlie was younger. He was a roan, chestnut brown, good-looking and good-natured, unlike Agnes. Agnes had once been the lead horse. Whenever there was a mountain trek, Agnes led the way. But now that she was older, she'd been relegated to last place. She made her irritation known by constantly nipping Charlie in the rump. I was on Charlie. My partner, Gary, who'd never ridden a horse and was terrified of heights, was on Agnes. We were following a guide, picking our way along a narrow, foot-wide, crumbling trail on our way up to a high alpine meadow in the Wallowa Mountains in northeastern Oregon. I had just started my research for a novel about Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, an educated mountain man who'd spent most of his life outdoors in the saddle in the American wilderness. He died in Oregon in 1866 when his horse slipped and threw him into the Owyhee River. When you attempt to write historical fiction, you have to assimilate everything you possibly can about the person and the places where he or she has been. So I had to learn how to listen to the world through the ears of a man who could interpret birdsong, and look at the world through the eyes of someone who could see an entire story in a broken branch in the forest. I figured the best way to begin this process was to saddle up and ride to a place where I could see and hear uninterrupted nature. Up and up we went. Periodically, Agnes would bare her yellow teeth, lunge forward, and try to bite Charlie in the ass. Whenever she did that, Charlie would toss his head and become agitated and not pay the kind of strict attention to the trail that I wanted him to, because we were, after all, at 4,000 feet, and then 5,000 feet, and looking straight down the side of the mountain, the deforested side where there were no big trees to hold in the soil, and where I finally saw what a scree looked like. I pointed it out to Gary, but all he could say was, "I can't look down." When we stopped at a millionaire's horse camp, our guide announced that she was ill and had to turn back. She said we'd be fine. There was only one trail, so we couldn't get lost. The alpine meadow that I wanted to visit was less than an hour away. So on we went, saddles creaking, flies biting, Agnes lurching ahead and trying to nip Charlie and shove him aside. "Don't do that," Gary kept saying, to no avail as we climbed higher and higher. When we finally reached the plateau and entered the meadow, both Agnes and Charlie stopped in their tracks and lifted their heads as if they'd seen or smelled or recognized something familiar. It was familiar to me too, even though I'd never been there before. It was like regaining a memory that I didn't know I had lost. The air sparkled. The sky was a shimmering blue. Long, soft, golden green grasses quivered in the soft, fresh, clean breezes around a small lake. And the silence, the complete absence of human-made noise, had an eloquence more profound than words. I sucked in a deep breath, hoping that I would remember this moment and this place when it came time to write about Jean-Baptiste. Gary, behind me, exhaled in appreciation, or maybe it was gratitude that we'd finally reached our destination. Agnes let out a soft, snuffling whinny. Charlie tossed his head as if he were nodding and stepped aside, off the trail, and let her finally take her place at the front of the line.